What's good, everybody? How's it going, man? Episode 3 of the StarDock StreamCast. And I forget to actually turn everything into mute. Congratulations. I just turned into a locale. Anyways, now that that little blip is out of the way, welcome to the StarDock StreamCast, episode number 3. We are rocking and rolling here tonight as we go right into full steam ahead into the weekend. Cannot wait for everything this weekend to fall away. Not just for to see just what's gonna happen with the 2020 version of the new Pro Series, the Pro competition for MK11, as this first week of that is upon us on PSN, but also the StarDock Showcase Master Series, folks. The first ever tournament that we've ever hosted here on the StarDock platform here on Twitch, and it's run through Smash GG, and I could not be happier that that event is upon us here in the next couple of days, and we already have 14 entries for that tournament, with $150 up to grabs for right now, courtesy of the homie, Mr. Golden Sports. You've seen him drop some pretty awesome sub bombs here on the stream throughout the course of the stream's lifetime, but man, oh man, oh man, has he come through and helping me get everything going, get the foundation work going for what we're gonna have going on Saturday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time here on twitch.tv/StarCharger28. I cannot wait for that to go down. And for those of you that, of course, are in Discord, you know, of course, now that and then, of course, on Twitter, if you follow along on Twitter, which in case you guys haven't already, please feel free to subscribe, follow here on the channel, so that you'll be stay up to date on whenever we'll go live with Streamcast or any development here on the stream, as well as also like, follow, subscribe onto the YouTube channel, which is where everything gets downloaded, uploaded, whatever the case may be, onto that platform. And then also, if you want to interact with everybody in the StarDock community, feel free to hit that StarDock Discord link down there in the About Me section of the bio here on the Twitch page. And also, if you want to keep up to date on social media, there's also Twitter as well at StarCharger28. We'd love to see some more of you guys interact with some of the things that get posted there. So, going into everything as far as this weekend, we got a lot of really cool things coming up, and it's going to be one heck of a weekend of Mortal Kombat. Whether you like Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat X, it does not matter. You will get your fill of whatever your preference is. And I cannot wait to do my part to host the event on Saturday evening with the StarDock Showcase Masterclass or Master Series, so that all of you that have been hungry for some competition here on MKX can have some of that satiated between now and when I get my move on. And speaking of which, I'll go ahead and tell a little bit of a story about that. Uh, I'll tell it now. Hell, so of course I go to the place that I've been scouting out over the course of these last couple of weeks for my move from where I live now, and so that I can be closer to work. Who just did me a lot of favors. With the end of the year approaching, and I thought I had a place nailed down, the place that I pretty much had my sights set on, but they pretty much told me that as far as internet and everything else is concerned, on that front, I would not have access to the same high speed internet that I have now. And that was going to be a massive problem because the options that were given to me to move there were very limited. And I wasn't going to allow the product that comes from this particular platform here on the StarDock platform to go ahead and get compromised because of that reason. Uh, and on top of that, when I walked the unit today, the unit actually had roaches, and it had an absolutely funky and gunky looking refrigerator that even made the woman that's a part of the admin over there at that apartment complex grimace in disgust as she was walking and looking at that junk with me. I mean, this junk was foul on every single level. I mean, I made up my mind that yeah, that wasn't it, Chief. That wasn't it. Unfortunately, I'm like, dude, I've already had to deal with one roach coach in terms of an apartment that I've ever lived at where it was just chock full of roach. I was like, I'm not doing that again. I am not doing that again. And then, of course, I had a little bit of an emergency meeting, if you will, with another complex, which was coincidentally next door. Didn't have as good of reviews online and whatnot. But that said, I visited and got approved and everything. And after looking into that spot, and as I'm filling out the application and taking care of the rest of the process over there, this lady comes in as the lady that was helping me was giving out packages to folks that were looking to get packages that came in the mail. This woman came in screaming, hollering, saying that people have been tampering with her mail, and then saying also that she's had to deal with all kinds of junk, pests, and all that junk. So I'm just like, she was basically fed up to the nth degree, and she exploded. She was a ticking time bomb. You could tell when she came into the leasing office that shit was about to go down on every single level. And I was just like, damn, bro. Just tough it out for these next couple of years, and you'll have your own house. I'm just telling myself that internally. Just tough it out. You'll have a house. And when you have a house, you won't have to deal with any of this junk anymore. So, hey man, it's just all a part of the plan. I've set this master plan up to where I'm gonna eventually wind up in my own spot, and I just gotta stick with it. I just gotta stick with it. This is just a part of the process, bro. But anyways, apart from all that good junk, I mean, yeah, this what really helped ease the shakes, I suppose, was seeing that there was offline action this past week. Of course, with the WePlay UFL, that entire WePlay platform that they've got going on right now, that is one beautiful thing. I mean, I've seen glimpses of some of the things that they had done at WePlay Esports, with some of the other games that they had and events that they'd thrown in the past, but to see what they did and how they embraced the atmosphere of Mortal Kombat and the way they put that out in their venue. I'm pretty sure seeing it just from a streaming point of view, it doesn't do it as much justice as seeing it live. But and even the commentators were dressed out in the robes, and just seeing them actually being brought into the atmosphere on that degree, to the fact that they went to that level and also went above and beyond to provide the entertainment that they provided. That is the very essence of what we've been missing in the offline community in terms of that esports that presentation and the professionalism that was dealt with that event from top to bottom, all the way around from production all the way to the end. And yeah, it was just top notch. Absolutely, everything was just chef's kiss. Mwah. Everything was great. Not to mention the fact that they brought a lot of the personalities that everybody wanted to see on commentary, that everybody wanted to see delve into the action on everything that happened. And it was just an absolutely wonderful thing to behold. I mean, you look at the way things shook down on everything on that event. It was just a great thing to see. And then what further augmented how everything went down was the fact that they had the firepower, very unique firepower in the groups that played. I mean, you didn't have the suspects that you would have expected to get invited to an event like that, like say Dragon, obviously Sonic Fox. No Ninja Killer, Scar, no Deoxys, no none of those other guys wound up taking the trip over there for whatever reasons that they had at their disposal to not be able to go. I mean, which happens, of course. Real life is set in, especially now that everybody's had to deal with things bigger than life thanks to the pandemic. And the lay of the land is somewhat, taking a slight beating thanks to the fact that, we've all had to make the massive adjustments in our lives regarding gaming and as well as regarding everything else in our personal lives that we have. That, the choice might not have been as clear cut to a 10 for some as some might think. in terms of just being able to go over there, especially if you're considered, of course, a pro gamer right now, in that it's basically all you do in order to make a living, all you do in your spare time. But nevertheless, you saw a very unique and diverse field of players and characters throughout the course of the tournament and the group play. And the format that they had as far as group play was something that I've always said should be the standard of competition for some time. And in fact, I even wanted to go so far as to try and put that in action in the Master Series, such that it being a round robin, which is something that on the next Master Series that I throw, because I plan on doing more than one. This is not going to be the only tournament that I throw with the StarDock Master Series this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be doing it as a round robin. That is one thing that I've always enjoyed in terms of a format for competition, because in a bracket, people always talk about whose road did you have, what road did you have, who was in your path to get to wherever you were. Now, when it comes to tournament, all my years competing, I mean, hell, even I was guilty once upon a time for actually thinking that way. But then you have to realize that in the end, you have to play who's ever put in front of you when it comes to a bracket or even a round robin or whatever the case may be. You're not in control of any of that. The only thing you control is what you bring to the table when it comes time to actually showcase that talent and actually, just get the results when everything is in front of you. So you run the table, if you will. And in the sense of competing by way of a bracket, there's always going to be detractors from any result that you get, in that a lot of folks, when they see what you've done or when they see just how you made a name for yourself by way of doing well in such and such events, they're always going to ask you, oh, who was in your path? Who did you face? Who did this guy beat? Who did you play? Did such and such make the tournament? Was such and such using their main? Was such and such blah, 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 blah. There's always something that's used to detract from somebody's accomplishment when it's just run through the usual traditional straight bracket. And when you have a round robin format, as I like to welcome all of you guys that have tuned in so far, thank you so much for showing up, Mr. Mangu, Speed of Sound. I like you guys. Thank you so much. The thing is, a round robin completely and utterly eliminates that kind of an out for people to criticize how you were able to make it into a certain scenario. Because round robin group play forces everybody to be prepared for every single scenario when facing every single player that's inside of that path. And I can't even call it a path, really. I mean, when you look at group play, it's just all a matter of, of course, controlling your destiny, running the table, and really just taking out every single person that's in that particular group setting. And to the point to where nobody can say, oh, you didn't fight such and such. Oh, such and such got sent to losers before you had a chance to see them on the road, and all that wank. And it's just one of those things where, they implemented that at WePlay beautifully, to the extent where you had two very well balanced groups of players that just had differing styles and very differing and contrasting abilities to be brought to the table. And it wound up really showcasing a lot of the cream having to rise to the top in both of those groups, such that the guys that you expect, that you would have expected to really dominate and make it to the top, they did. A lot of some guys, wound up surprising. Like, for instance, a Verk. This was his first ever offline competition, and the man goes in and beasts the way that he did to get fifth overall. I mean, suffice to say, this was a very big coming out party for a Verk. This was a massive victory for him, regardless of where he placed in that top eight. The fact that he made top eight in that group play, and not just the fact that he made top eight, but the fact that he actually did some damage in that group. I mean, some significant damage in that group, to the extent where he winds up going on and finishing in second place in the group. No, third place in the group. I'm sorry. You see, of course, top four in each group of 7 players moved on, and you saw a Verk placing ahead of guys like Hayate, Aso Dimatse, and Hadoken, guys that actually had some acumen coming into the tournament. And it was very interesting seeing what happened with that group, such that it was a Verk, a Foxy Grandpa who just went and straight ran train through everybody in the tournament up until he got the Tekken Master. And then you had even Forever King, who was inside of that bracket, who unfortunately did not wind up advancing. Definitely was rooting for King to do some work, but you see Conquer from Brazil, man, he was on it, man, with sub. And the fact that the guy in Conquer actually made it that far without even truly thinking about relying on the mix. I mean, he had it in his back pocket, and there were times where he did pull it out, at times where you would least expect it, but he really didn't even think of relying on that as his first way of getting as far as he did in the tournament. I mean, for a Sub-Zero player, I mean, he showcased, you know, the best looking offline Sub-Zero play, or Sub-Zero play period, that I'd seen in Mortal Kombat 11. Now, my personal thoughts about the game aside, there just comes a time where you have to acknowledge real when you see it, and Conquer absolutely showed out. No question. No question. And Hayate showed exactly why he's been the player that he's been for the better part of the last 5 years. I mean, the guy was down 3 sets, and he comes back and wins his final 3 sets. Like, in order to go 500 in that group A. Sorry about that, guys. He winds up going 500 in that group A, but winds up advancing out of the bracket anyways because of the fact that he had the resiliency and the experience to not let that get down on him. And he wound up pressing on anyways and making everything work, because that's what guys of that caliber do. That's what you do. So on an overall level, it was really cool to see him bounce back the way he did. And then MK Azerbaijan on the second bracket, Group B, being another one of those guys that folks had some questions about him. I mean, everybody knew how good he was, as far as the tail end of MKX, of course, played Sonya, of course. He and I had, a little bit of a rocky beginning with each other, but of course we that's well water under the bridge now, and we played each other multiple times. I root for the guy, he roots for me. I mean, he's so cool keeping that scene over there in Azerbaijan going. That is really awesome to see. Let's see here. As I'd like to welcome Mr. Golden Sports into the chat. How's it going, partner? Hold on just a second. Sorry about that, guys. Just had to go through a little power cycle. But anyways, yeah, Azerbaijan did his thing. Did an absolute beautiful job across the board, making it out. And you had Tekken Master, you had Do Basic, Gur, Dizzy TT, Infinity, and Too Easy. And you had Infinity in that tournament, who everybody was definitely rooting for Infinity to come up and do as well as try and make it to that final 8, being the only female competitor, and of course being one of the most popular figures in the community, just with the way that she's constantly and consistently grinding and doing everything that she does in cosplay, gaming, all that good stuff. It was really good to see her and King go over there and try and do everything together. And she actually took a win off of Do Basic, man. When she beat Do Basic, I was like, whoa! Damn! Because, the thing is, you see in the chat, inside the WePlay chat throughout the weekend, of course, Infinity has quite an army of supporters, but there were a lot of folks in there that were throwing around all kinds of bile, all kinds of all kinds of wank saying, "Oh, why is she here? Why's all that? Why did she get a slot? She's getting bopped, all that shit." Then she goes and beats Do Basic and shuts a lot of people up. And Do Basic, one of Russia's finest, if not Russia's best player right now in MK11. Unfortunately, he got put on the back foot, and he wound up only winning a couple of sets in group play. And unfortunately, one of my guys, Too Easy, guy that I trained with, I came up with together with him, and he came up with the OD guys over in Florida. But we met offline, and then we came up and we trained together online for a few years, through MKX, through Injustice 2 as well, and not so much here in MK11. But that said, Too Easy, I was very happy to see not only that he got on board with a new team, with the Pittsburgh Knights, I believe, but also the fact that he got the chance to go over there and do his thing, especially in the 2v2 where he placed very high, and with Conqueror, and wound up coming out with a good result in that regard. Which, to be honest with you, I'm gonna get into the team aspect of things down the line. I kind of touched up on it, I believe, on the last episode. But then again, it's also worth noting that the team aspect of things, super hype stuff. I keep telling folks, whether it's 2v2, 3v3, I think 3v3 is really the most optimal thing, to be honest with you. Or you could go 5v5 at the very most. But team aspect of things, 3v3 or 5v5 or even 2v2, whatever, it's a very hype option. You look at the way things actually progress when it comes to guys facing off in that kind of group element where folks get to pick their teammates, mix and match their playstyles, and what have you. Things can be very, very different. The hype dynamic of things, especially in a game like this, which, to be honest with you, needs an extra hype factor, needs a true hype factor on how things shake down, competitively speaking. The team aspect could wind up doing that, and I'm not alone when I say this. People have been uttering that same aspect ever since release, and all it's done is gather steam the same way that custom variations did. So something worth putting out there for the future, but I digress. The big surprise, I don't want to say it's a big surprise given the level of talent that was in this particular group, or in this entire event for that matter. But then you had guys like Dizzy. You had Dizzy TT, who was also in this group, and he wound up not making it through the top eight. Making it through the top eight in this group was Azerbaijan, Tekken Master, Gur, and I believe it was Do Basic. Yeah, I believe it was Do Basic who also made it through on this group. So it was very interesting to see that Dizzy TT did not make it through into the final combat in the top eight. And in the playoff stage, man, it was a very, well, to be honest with you, if you weren't getting 3-0'd, it was 3-1. And then the only real hype set throughout the course of that top eight was Averk versus Gur. That was a very intense affair in that Averk pushed Gur to the limit. He pushed Gur to the absolute limits. And unfortunately, after that, Averk wound up losing out. But that said, man, what a come out party for. Actually, he wound up beating Do Basic, and then he lost to Conqueror with the crispy subplay that we saw this weekend. So tough weekend right there in that for Do Basic. He made it in and then just winds up going 0-2 drop in the top eight. But then you had Azerbaijan, who still turned heads in spite of losing out right there in top eight as well. But as far as the MVP of the tournament on an overall level, I mean, it had to be honest with you, as far as the overall MVP, you got to look at Tekken Master. I mean, Tekken Master ran a train on every single soul he faced in the tournament. Man went either 2-0 or 3-1 or 3-0. That was it. That was it. The man did not have a close set all weekend. He did not get tested all weekend. The man just went in there and had a game plan with each and every single character that he brought out to the forefront and just ran train on every single soul. It was a beautiful thing to watch in terms of just seeing just how efficient he is. I mean, the guy just has a method of going about things, and you just gotta wonder. In a scene as limited as the Middle Eastern scene is, and I've rooted for the Middle Eastern scene ever since Tekken Master really started going big time because he's been carrying the banner for that region of the world for years now. I've been sitting here wondering, just did the man really get this good by just labbing over there? With what little help and what few training partners he had? I mean, this guy has some next level talent, and it still makes my soul burn that I lost a set that I lost to him at EVO in top 16 in 2017, but that's neither here nor there. The guy has a method of going about things right now that's just so efficient. And now that he's got somewhat of a scene around him in that region, whether it be Bahrain or Saudi Arabia or anybody else within those parts, I mean, the guy is just scary good no matter what game he plays. And then Foxy gets up to him, who had been running train on the opposite side of things in his group and comes into the top 8, and he winds up running train through everybody that he sees. And you just sit there and just look at the fact that Tekken Master just made short work of him. There was no bracket reset. There was no grand finals reset. There was no nothing. It was just a matter of, who was next for Tekken Master. The guy just put that kind of a clinic on everybody. And whether you liked it or not, if you were competing, you had to take a bite out of that shit sandwich. There was just no choice. Tekken Master was just that good. But to see WePlay put on that kind of an event for $60,000, but yeah, this is just where we go into the state of the community overall. I mean, you have all the things that happened throughout this weekend. I mean, the group play was hype in the sense that it was very intense seeing who was going to make it out of the groups in order to play on into the next rounds. But then you get into, just how things are right now with the midst of this pandemic where, by and large, people are still at home. People still go to streaming. People are still on the social media outlets like crazy right now, especially within the FGC, especially within our community. And then you see the fact that throughout the course of the WePlay event this weekend, the viewership it just wasn't as boisterous as you figured it would be. Now, granted, WePlay is no stranger when it comes to putting on top tier events when it comes to eSports or whatever in the world they put on outside of obviously the FGC. This was their first venture into the FGC. So by and large, it's worth cutting some slack in that regard. So especially considering the fact that on Twitter, on social media, one of the biggest gripes that I and a lot of folks had with the whole entire aspect of how they ran the event in terms of promotion was the fact that it took a lot of asking from me and from a lot of other guys of different levels and different prominence and whatever on social media to get them to spread the word about what was happening. I mean, there were a lot of times throughout the course of the week where you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, wait a minute, why in the world is the sum of the viewership for MK11 irregularly high here and randomly in the middle of the day? Then you see WePlay going on, and you're like, wait a minute, this was going on, wasn't it? Why didn't I hear more about this? I mean, you just look on social media, you look on all the different forums, you just look on the different ways that we had to that could have been used, taken advantage of to really promote the event, promote its presence, especially within our community, and seeing how that wasn't done by and large, it was just something that
considering the scope of what WePlay eSports does with their events, was just very shocking to say the least. And what further reflects this, what further reflects the shocking lack of promotion, as well as the shocking lack of awareness and not just awareness, but really just the scope of presence within the community that this event had. The viewership over the course of the event's lifetime over this past week and the weekend was not what it really could have and should have been, considering the scope of things. You see the 2v2 tournament. The 2v2 tournament, it was something. And like I've been saying, team sports are always going to bring the hype. In esports, that's always the case. People love to see team environments. People love to see the group environment. And I mean, we thrive off of the 1v1 environment, which will always be the main core and fabric of the FGC. But then you throw in that extra element of having teammates to accomplish the goal of getting the overall victory, and then all of a sudden you should be bringing in a lot more eyes. Throughout the course of the team tournament, I don't believe there were more than 4,000 viewers throughout that entire ordeal. I don't think there were. I really don't. And then you translate that to the group play stages. Now, of course, the event happened in the Ukraine, which means a lot of the group play and a lot of the major things that we are going to be able to see happen in a different time zone than where we are. But then again, as far as when we were able to view things in the time difference with Ukraine, it was still widely available for people to actually, look at, as far as the Twitch feeds and the notifications on just what's popping on the games that we follow, so that there should have been a little bit more of a presence from our community in supporting the event. And there definitely would have been if there was more notoriety given in promotion of the event to us on social media. But even then, after more word spread on the event throughout the group stages, as you're looking at the viewership, you're seeing the viewership really just fluctuate between 1,500 viewers or even 1,000 viewers to 3,000 viewers. Yeah, that happened throughout both days of group play and all the major stages of group play, in spite of the production, in spite of everything that's being put into it. And then you go on the finals day, where in the grand finals actually weren't even the highest levels of viewership that happened throughout the weekend. The grand finals, things tailed off to about 8,700, 8,500 viewers, when things were just over 10,000 viewers throughout the course of, like, say, the Gur versus a Verk matchup, when things were really popping on a competitive level. Because, like I said, through our top 8, every match was either a 3-0 or a 3-1 wash, sans that particular matchup. Without that matchup between Gur and a Verk, every single matchup in top 8 was an absolute wash, to the point where you just got sitting there wondering to yourself, has this look good for viewers? And this is what, now that element doesn't fall on WePlay. That element falls on the game itself, in the sense that, well, every single match is turning out to be very uncompetitive, even when you reach the upper echelon of what this event is supposed to represent. And then you reach grand finals. Of course, Tekken Master knows what time it is. He goes to Jackie and just completely and utterly blows Foxy out of the water. I mean, you see stuff like that, and then you're just left wondering to yourself, why is it that after a decade of groundwork of that this community has laid, the acceptance of the very fabric of esports being woven into this community's DNA ever since the MLG days and MK9, why in the world are we struggling to gain viewership? Why are we struggling like this? You look at the fabric of our community from the MK9 scene, where we got going with MLG and really embraced that model, to the point to where it became our community standard at all grassroots events, where you see 3 out of 5 everywhere, and guys trying to keep all the brackets and everything running as quick and concisely as possible, which, to everybody's credit in the NRS community, I think we got some of the best tournament organizers in the entire FGC. No disrespect whatsoever to any other set of tournament organizers in any other game or any other sect within the FGC. But as far as tournament organizing, thanks to eSports being the very thing that our community was founded off of in order to kind of take another step, that's one area where I think we don't exactly have much peer. All right, I'll say that right now. But that said, you still look at the fact that as far as exposure, as far as viewership, as far as community growth, I mean, you see the game, you see Mortal Kombat, collectively speaking, have millions of followers all over the streaming mediums, whether it be Facebook gaming, whether it be Twitch. Why is it that we're struggling so badly when it comes to competitive tournaments, professionally broadcast tournaments, like what we had this past weekend, as well as the first true offline event that's happened here in the midst of the meat and potatoes of the COVID era? Why is it that we were struggling to gain viewership when by and large folks didn't really have much else to do but tune in if they were a part of the community? Why are we struggling so hard with that aspect if, of course, Mortal Kombat 11 is supposed to be the crowning achievement of our community as far as a competitively balanced game, or NRS's most competitively balanced game? If this is the best thing that they've created so far, why is viewership in the toilet? Even when you've got top tier events like what we've had. To a certain extent, I mean, you have to remember when earlier this year, even when Final Combat was going on, you have to remember there were more viewers watching the World Series of Chess, and there were more viewers, about, I think it was three or four-fold, watching the World Series of Chess in group play of that event. And this was online chess, I'm pretty sure. This was, of course, broadcast on Twitch. There were tens of times more viewers watching that when it was just group play than you had of watching Final Combat for hundreds of thousands of dollars in Chicago in NRS's backyard. Now, granted, one has to wonder, I mean, when you think about it, when you ask some folks about this, you start, bringing up parity. You start bringing up the thought that, oh, well, Sonic, we already know who's gonna win the tournament if Sonic Fox is there. We already know who's gonna take the prize. If the furry comes on over at the event. Well, shoot. Last time I checked, good old Sonic Fox has acknowledged all the guys that make it to Final Combat, all the guys that made it to WePlay eSports. He's acknowledged all of those as some of the world's best. And they all give him. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to get a new cord to charge up my headset. But that said, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. You can't judge an event based off of that. You can't judge an event based off of saying, oh, such and such wasn't there. Oh, such and such didn't throw a monkey wrench into the bracket. If such and such would have won if they were there. You can't look at things like that. You see a lot of guys throughout the chat over the course of the event asking, where's Sonic? Where's Dragon? Where's such and... Yeah, they were asking all the questions of where's such and such, instead of actually admiring who was there, because the level of player that was there was something still worth acknowledging on every single level. None of those guys were slouches at all. And yet a lot of the talent that was there still seemed like it didn't get appreciated well enough to the point to where guys could overlook the thought of one of their favorite players not being there, or thinking that somebody's placed there should have come within question, as opposed to actually just saying, "Yo, this is an impressive event. You got some impressive players playing their best Mortal Kombat offline and having the best chance to do so ever since the beginning of the year when the pandemic era began." You see, a lot of that depreciate, and not to mention a lot of the attitudes on social media, because things have gotten fairly toxic over the course of the last few months, to where I can understand if that's something that kind of detracts a lot of people from wanting to take interest in the community. Not to mention the morale about the game post patch from the major update that happened, of course, with the drop of Ultimate, has not really left a good taste in a lot of people's mouths. Hell, if I'm being absolutely fair and honest, it's not left a good taste in my mouth. But then again, not having a good taste about this game, I mean, that I might as well be tasting my own saliva at this point, because that's pretty much how I felt about the game since release. So, case in point, when you take a look at all those factors and even taking all that into account, because every community has drama. Every sect of the FGC has drama. Hell, Street Fighter had their fair share of drama with the whole Punk and Strider beef that was happening in Street Fighter League a few weeks back. But nevertheless, you look at the landscape of things where this is Mortal Kombat, man. You've got millions of followers across all realms of social media. And for WePlay UFL, you've only got a little over 10,000 viewers for one match in top 8, and after that everything is hovering around anywhere from 7,500 to about 9,000. I mean, take from all of that what you will. Take it for what you will, man. It's just something worth pointing out, that something in the model ain't right, ain't working well. Something in the competitive NRS wheel is busted in terms of drawing attention to watching people play the game at the highest level. And another thing that's worth putting in the perspective on this is the fact that you've got not 798 players for the MK East tournament, now that the pro competition is firing up again for 2020 2021, and it's all being done online. I mean, you can go register for all that junk now, and you've got hundreds of viewers on both regions, East and West, here on North America. And then, of course, I believe Liga Latina. I think that's beginning, or it has already begun. And the same thing goes for all the other regions around the world. Which shout outs to the African region and shout outs to the Middle Eastern regions. I mean, shout outs to you guys, and I definitely hope someday that the Southeastern Asian region can definitely wind up getting the due that they are owed, because I believe those guys have the players, the support, that they should be able to compete in this. And there should be a push from the developers to get the game, if it's not already, to become legal over there in those parts, in terms of being able to distribute it and actually stream it and compete in it and out in the open without any kind of backlash. But all of that having been said, you've got hundreds of registrants for the pro competition regional tournaments online this weekend, and you have to wonder how the viewership is going to shake down throughout the course of this affair, because these tournaments happen once every few weeks within the pro competition. As there's, I believe, 12 in total, going up to that lead up to qualifying for Final Combat. And in the midst of all of that, you have to wonder just how things are going to progress in terms of the overall presence of Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 11, whatever. Just how are things going to get better between now and when this final competition is going to happen in the spring? Because I don't know, if it's tough to tell whether offline events are going to come back in the new year. It's very tough to tell about how things are going with COVID. I mean, It's possible, but some governing body, some large benefactors, some large tournament organizing heads are going to have to come up with a system of COVID testing or pay for a system of COVID testing that honestly the FGC really can't afford unless the devs provide this in order for us to meet up in bulk again. Because unless something like that becomes feasible where we actually have something akin to like a COVID bubble or any kind of preemptive COVID testing, I mean, even then, it's highly doubtful considering just how, in some cases, in some sects of the FGC, not naming names, not naming communities, but they know who they are, that are very completely unsanitary, and that you wouldn't want to be around them even during the midst of a very clear era where there's no pandemic or virus or any sickness going around. You have to wonder if them going by way of inviting folks for right now, if that's the move. And like the way that WePlay eSports is done, the way Street Fighter League is done, you have to wonder if those kinds of events where very small groups of players get invited out to compete for the time being because of things being what they are, if that's the move. Especially if you want offline to reign as king uh, in terms of competition and also in terms of promoting the game. I mean, I talk about these numbers. I talk about all of this and just talking with respect to all the FGC. I mean, it could very much be a lot worse in the sense that you could definitely wind up being like the Smash community, and I don't like putting them out there, but the fact that the developers and the powers that be over in their community gave them that large cease and desist when it came to running the big house events online, and when it regards to we're going and organizing a lot of their usual events online because guys were using, I suppose, I don't want to say pirated, but a very uh, non-consented piece of hardware in order to play the game online on other platforms. And as a result, they wound up having a big band hammer come down on their tournaments for the time being, due to all the legal business that's now jumped in. And when you just hope that doesn't wind up becoming a thing amongst all the developers. You really don't, because that's the last thing our communities need. Our communities need for the developers to be supporting us being able to play the games offline in tournament or online in tournament, whatever safer, of course, obviously. And they like to be honest with you, they need us as much as we need them in terms of being able to showcase just exactly how to get the most out of their game, get the best exposure out of the game, continue to get continuous interest in their games, because the fighting game community being the niche market that we are, having the kind of data that comes out of our community in terms of showcasing what their game's capable on the best level in order to give them an idea of what to do to make their games bigger and better for the next time they decide to make another one or a follow-up in whatever series it is, that shit's invaluable. Now a lot of that shit, vast majority of that feedback comes from what you see whenever you see folks organizing tournaments with those specific games. That's just what it is. I mean, why do you think the devs have become a lot more tight knit with the competitive community in the sense that they want to get our input, our opinions on what's going on within their games? Well, that's because we are the guys that push it to limits that not even folks that just run QA or testing can even go. I mean, hell, case in point, look at the way Aziz continues to break things down in Mortal Kombat 11 from a testing standpoint. Finding things that I'm fairly sure didn't even cross the folks in QA's mind. And he does that on the regular. Hell, a lot of the Middle Eastern guys do. A lot of guys do within our community, like Raptor, who's basically made an entire presence out of doing that over the last couple of years, showcasing, and making guides on what characters and what a game is actually capable of. I mean, you look at all of that, and uh, you look at all of that, and it's just one of those things where, you know, we the development of a game in the competitive scene, it's gotten to a point to where in the FGC we're essentially like that. I mean, it has to be like that if we're gonna get the best product that we can out of the games that we play. And if there's not really much action coming out of the devs on just what can come into a game, especially after they've gotten as much feedback as possible on what's wrong with it, how they can improve it, and things still remain stagnant, well, I suppose in a certain sense, you kind of get what you get in terms of stagnating interest in your game from the greater spectrum of the gaming realm, or even just overall. Competitively, casually, it don't matter. And I suppose that's kind of contributed to the rut that we find ourselves in as far as MK11 is, in spite of a lot of folks not really wanting to openly admit that. But when you consider the way events right now are being run, I think for the time being, unless it's been made vehemently clear on a nationwide and worldwide scale that the pandemic has receded, I don't know if I can really. I just don't know if I can really see a lot of us putting on a super big amount of offline events where life can really go back to normal for the time being. To be frank, unless these test vaccines or however they're going about things within the medical and pharmaceutical world with how they're developing all of that, unless that becomes mainstream enough to where it's provided an ironclad defense against the pandemic and all of its symptoms, I really don't see anything changing from our standpoint of things until possibly even another year from now. I mean, that's just the way I'm starting to read on things. Just reading the tea leaves from what I'm getting out of how folks are progressing with researching how to deal with what we're going through. Even above and beyond that, I think once even life resumes to a certain degree of normalcy, what it was before the pandemic hit, I really think that a lot of what we've seen throughout the course of the pandemic, a lot of the ways that we've been forced to adapt and go about our daily lives, I really think a lot of that's going to become standard anyways. The social, because you think about it, we have more communications devices. We have more ways to communicate with each other, yet we remain as distant and as reclusive from each other as ever. Simply because of the fact that with all the things that are coming out about, how folks have interacted with each other, with women coming out with their stories, men coming out with their stories, and everybody basically being given reasons to not want to interact with anybody that they don't already know in some sort of inner circle, then it's going to get to the point to where obviously social distancing, we've already kind of put out a framework on that folks need to, keep their presence to themselves, their hands to themselves, and all that good business. And we've already laid out the framework of why that was eventually going to be the norm in the first place. Social distancing was something that was building up to becoming a thing long before the pandemic even hit. As much as people might not want to agree with that, I mean, consider the fact that you've had so many movements come out in the last few years, whether it be social justice movements, people sharing their stories, like, somewhat akin to the Me Too movement and all that good stuff. Well, I don't want to say good stuff. I'm sorry. I don't mean for that to be taken out of any context, but in the sense that you've had so much stuff come to light on people that you probably would not have thought that they were like that, or in the sense that folks are trying to paint a certain demographic with a wide brush, or just folks really just finding ways to just really just not want to be around other folks. And we've been setting up the thought process behind actually being as far away or as being as limited to being around folks as we can for as long as we remember. And as far as the FGC is concerned, I can probably say that once things really resume offline with the FGC, with all the things that have come to light, not just about certain players, certain communities, or even about certain eSports teams that have gone defunct thanks to violating a lot of rules. Once again, not naming any names, but they know who they are. When you get right down to the thick of it, no matter what's gonna happen with regards to us being able to reconvene back together again with each other in person, things won't be the same. They definitely will not be the same. And this is hitting all communities. It's not just the NRS community or the NRS sect of the FGC. This is going to hit all communities and all gaming communities as a whole. But that said, it's going to definitely be interesting to see just when everybody's going to be able to come out in full force and just to see if any of that rings to be a long-standing hypothesis turned into a fact or whether it just remains a hypothesis as a whole. We won't know until everybody reconvenes again, and I don't see that happening for the time being. In our scene in bulk or in any other community in bulk, simply because of the fact that the pandemic is still there, and we have to continue to use the methods at hand in order to continue to make the dream work. Which, of course, leading into what I've got going on this side of things as far as the platform that I've been trying to build for the last few months. As you all know, the MKX community has been, and the MKX has always been a game that I've loved. I mean, it was a game that helped me find out so much about myself as a player. It helped me overcome so much as a player, and it helped me really get to a point to where I became very proud in the things that I accomplished within the FGC. And by and large, it's really fun to see the fact that that game, in spite of the new games that have come out since, especially from NRS, has continued to see folks continue to play it, get better, showcase what they can do, and showcase even with it being in its 6th year of being active, and it's also active now on next gen consoles with PS5 and Xbox Series X as greatest hits and all that good stuff. The legend continues to go on and on, and with that, of course, we've been running the StarDock showcases for the last. We've had 14 episodes of that, and now, of course, as you all know, the MKX StarDock Showcase Master Series is upon us on Saturday evening, and I could not be happier that we have that going on. And thanks to the homie, Mr. Golden Jew, or not Golden Jew, Mr. Golden Sports. I am so sorry. I was thinking about a buddy of mine that competed in NRS way back when in both MKX and Injustice 2, and that came to me for a moment. But anyways, just linked everybody. I just linked you guys the registration link for the tournament, and I am really excited that we've got this going on. Thanks to Mr. Golden Sports, we've got that $150 base pot that's going to be paid out across the top 4 finishers in this tournament. And as of right now, we've got 14, as of this streamcast, we've got 14 entries in the tournament. And as such, I've committed both on Discord and on Twitter in saying that if we reach 32 entrants by the time the tournament actually winds up happening on Saturday, I will not only will I contribute an extra $150 to the pot, but the homie Pollutions, who's also competing in the tournament, he has stated that he will contribute an extra $100 to the pot in order to make it an even $400 split amongst the top 4 finishers. How's that? So hey, a potential 400 spot up for grabs here in Mortal Kombat X here in year 6 of the game's life. I mean, who saw that coming? I'm very happy and very honored to put that on. And I cannot wait to see all of you guys that have signed up for the tournament come in and actually showcase what you've got. And in fact, I can actually go over some of the attendees right now. I mean, we got, of course, the homegirl Liz Vasto Lorde. Thank you. And we've got Sekaron. We've got Adobe. We've got Audio, Vasto Lorde. Of course, the Vasto Lordes. I should have known you guys were going to come and support this as well as you are. And speaking of which, we got, of course, Devious Clown, aka Seder Vasto Lorde. We got Rorschach the Brave. We've got Rattlehead, Slave On. You saw what he did this past week in the showcase against I'ma Rush You 2 times, and my God, he is going to be a tough one to stop in this. I expect big things out of that one. And then we got, of course, Pollutions, who, as I mentioned, is also pledging an extra boost to the pot if we get the registrants that go ahead and help us meet our goal. We got No Remorse. And oh boy, we've got the homie, Burrito Voorhees. That's right, aka Forever King Jr., aka Franco. My boy Franco, he is coming into this tournament, and I have every faith that he's going to come in to try and wreck shop. And we've got more guys that are actually trying to register for the tournament. I'm fairly certain we've got, I put Ghost into the tournament as well. Yeah, Ghost in the tournament. We got Unknown in the tournament. We have Cocaine in the tournament. We got Volt Death coming out and making his first appearance in a tournament. So, hey, man, this is going to be very good stuff. I mean, we get Cocaine, another guy that I really can't wait to see. We've got 15 signees for this tournament so far, with only a couple of days left to sign in. If you're wanting to sign up for the tournament, you have until 5 o'clock on Saturday in order to register. Hopefully that's late enough in terms of us being starting everything up at 6:30. Hopefully that's far enough away from the MK11 Pro competition that fires up over the weekend. Hopefully that gives us enough buffer to actually get through our tournament without having any time conflicts. So that's just to let you guys know. And then, of course, everything is going to wind up starting at 6:30 on Central Standard Time on the dot. So for those of you that are looking to compete, I'll definitely also link the registration link also with the VOD so that everybody can have that at their disposal. And also, in order to join the tournament, it's North America only. It is going to involve you needing to be in the Discord channel, the StarDock 28 Discord channel. There will be a link for you in the sign-in link on Smash EG to join the Discord if you haven't already. And in the process, you'll be able to join in, and then we'll be able to communicate with you throughout the course of the entire tournament, which is going to take place in the MKX channel of the Discord. And then you can communicate with me on what's going on in case your match is an affair that I cannot see for myself. So that's it. That's why we're doing it. We're not doing it to bar anyone from being able to join. We're making Discord a requirement, just so that we can make sure that communication in the event is about as smooth as you can get, and so that we're not sitting there, scrambling to try and get people to communicate with us what's going on. Guys reporting scores, all that good business. So this is a good way for us to keep everything running as smoothly as possible, just like we've been doing on the Streamcast for the better part of the last 16 weeks. So that's the foundation behind that. I cannot wait for this tournament. It is going to be fun business, and it is surely to draw in some pretty cool folks to be able to take note of what's going on in that. As far as Mortal Kombat events that are going through Mortal Kombat X, I am still willing and able to do something for the community on that regard. And because I'm likely going to be moving into another different spot that's going to allow me to bring in my internet connection as soon as I move into the apartment, this basically means that I will be allowed and I will be able to actually use my internet connection right off the jump when I move into this apartment, instead of waiting a month at the other spot like I would have been forced to do. So, or basically not even being able to use my internet connection on the other spot like I figured. So hopefully things go well with this move here in the next week. And when the move goes down, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to be streaming any showcases, tournaments, exhibitions, what have you, simply because I'll be busy trying to get everything in my new place set up for for the next time, which I think will probably be coming sometime possibly after New Year's. But that said, I still think I'll be able to do some of the regular streams and some of the streamcasts as well, to keep you guys updated. And of course, we're trying to add a little bit more to the streamcast here in order to continue to pump out that extra juicy content that I know you guys all love to come and indulge in. And I definitely thank every single one of you for the support that's been given in terms of encouraging me to continue on with the streamcast itself. This is definitely something that I've always wanted to continue on with, and I'm definitely glad to see that a lot of uh, you guys approve. So really good stuff on that regard. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe here on the Twitch stream, on the YouTube. Join up on the Discord so that you'll be able to compete in the tournaments as well as interact with everybody within the StarDock platform. Also follow along on Twitch with all of the developments that are going on as we speak. So, thank you everybody for joining in on this episode of the StarDock Streamcast. Been a fun one to go ahead and talk with you guys and get some of this good stuff uh, going out there. And before we go, can we please press F in the chat right now for the folks that had so much hype about Cyberpunk? Like, oh my god. I mean, I talked earlier. Remember how I talked earlier about competitive players and players at high level testing a game in order to give the best possible product for the developers so that because that's how we drive off of one another? I gotta say, man, I gotta say, I didn't realize that the whole hype behind that game was because it was in development for 8 years. And it was in development 8 years also in at a time where years and years ago, 8 years ago, I believe we were still on PS3s going into PS4s, and PC had well outdated hardware back in that time compared to now. And you have a company that's developed a game now for 8 years, and now it's made it on the next gen hardware, but they didn't take into consideration the current gen in the sense that PS4, Xbox One definitely being something worth, getting your game to adapt to while also getting it ready for the next gen consoles and next gen PC hardware, whatever the case may be in all those realms. They've been working on that game for 8 years, and for the game to flop on release with the consoles as hard as it has, I mean, seeing some of the graphics, seeing some of the glitches, just the overall product, especially after so many pushbacks and release dates that Cyberpunk has had over the course of the better part of the decade, and for things to wind up like this, bruh, when you look at the great scheme of things, what a waste of a decade's worth of hype. I didn't even realize up until just about a week ago that the game had been in development for that long. I mean, I would thought, I saw some gameplay or some screenshots and some, of course, some demo play of it and I think it was E3 from 2018, and they were showing off some things with it then, and I was thinking, all right, so it's been in development for a while, and that they were pushing it back to pack in so much content, pack in so much into this game to make it the most immersive uh, uh, RPG around. But then you just look at the fact that it's been in development for 8 years, and for it to just flop like this. And what's worse is the continuation of the yellow background meme notes that they give to the community saying that they apologize for things being what they are, which kind of tells me in a sense that they were sitting on that particular canned response, saying that they were ready to give people refunds, ready to help them uninstall the game, give them their money back if they downloaded it, all that shit. But then you look into the greater aspect of the fact that the devs, a lot of those devs that have been working tirelessly on this game now for the last 8 years, are now going to have to put in extra few months worth of crunch time in order to completely and utterly undo the damage that they've done. Press F in the chat on that one. Ouch. Ouch, man. You know how we always say that there's times where folks have black eyes in certain situations? Well, this might as well be a yellow eye considering the the kind of thing that we're talking about here. I mean, that yellow background and anything being printed on a yellow background, that shit will be a meme in the gaming community. Not just in gaming community, but in mainstream media. That shit will be memed from now until the end of when gaming ever becomes a viable thing to do in your spare time. From now until the time where a community will cease to exist. This shit will go down in history as one of the greatest failures in the history of gaming, regardless of how successful their PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X launches have been. This was a failure. I don't give a damn. And there's a content creator that I watch because of all of his videos roasting people. His name is Urinating Tree. And this guy always runs something called the lol cow of the week, where essentially, he basically roasts whoever had the biggest fuck up at that particular time, that particular week, or that particular point in time. Well, I think we can all say it's anybody that had anything and everything to do with Cyberpunk's development. No question about that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. That's the whole episode of episode number 3. I hope you guys tune in when everything gets posted. I hope you guys tune in on Saturday for the Showcase Master Series. I cannot wait for that. There will not be a showcase for MK11 tomorrow with regards to the MK11 showcase. I have to take care of things with the residential situation, of course, with the apartment situation, as I've been telling you. And I also have another engagement to take care of. But that said, tune in on Saturday. It is going to be a bomb-ass time. And after the tournament is done, and after all the competitive play is done right there in the Showcase Master Series, there might be a surprise at the end. There might be some extra surprises right there at the end that might want to have you in your seat for a little while longer once the series concludes on Saturday. But yo, thank you for tuning in. Love every single one of you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. This is Star Charger, your boy, signing right on off. Thank you so much, guys.